Exposition is a literary term that refers to the part of a story that sets the stage for the drama to follow. It introduces the theme, setting, characters, and circumstances at the story's beginnings. To understand what exposition is, look how the writer sets the scene for the story and the characters within it.
A shock from an electric eel is like the brief, numbing jolt from a stun gun. Normally, the shock can't kill a person. However, eels can cause heart failure or respiratory failure from multiple shocks or in persons with underlying heart disease. More often, deaths from electric eel shocks occur when the jolt knocks a person in the water and they drown.
While Spanish is not a commonly heard language in most parts of Africa, Asia, and the majority of Europe, that hasn't stopped it from becoming the second most commonly spoken language. The spread of the Spanish language is rooted in colonization. Between the 15th and 18th centuries, Spain colonized much of South and Central of North America as well.
The gray wolf is an extremely adaptable species and is one of those animal species that survived the last ice age. The gray wolf's physical characteristics enabled it to adapt quickly to the harsh conditions of the ice age, and its cunning and adaptation helped it survive in the changing environment.
Yellowstone was initially made famous due to its unique geology caused by its location on a North American plate, which for millions of years has slowly moved across a mantle hotspot via plate tectonics. The Yellowstone caldera is a volcanic system, the largest in North America, which has formed as a result of this hotspot and subsequent large volcanic eruption.
Because Mandarin is the most commonly spoken dialect, many people use the word Chinese to refer to it. While roughly 70% of the country speaks Mandarin, many other dialects are spoken as well. The languages are mutually intelligible to a varying degree, depending on how close the languages are to one another.
People who want to become astronauts must be in top physical condition. Each country's space program has health requirements for its space travelers. They usually assess a candidate's fitness to withstand some pretty tough conditions. For example, a good candidate must have the ability to endure the rigors of lift-off and to function in weightlessness.
As far as we know, nothing can move faster than light. According to Einstein's theories on relativity, it takes an infinite amount of energy to accelerate an object with mass up to the speed of light. As a result, it would appear that having a spacecraft traveling at or exceeding the speed of light is simply impossible.
Concentration is an expression of how much solute is dissolved in a solvent in a chemical solution. There are multiple units of concentration. Which unit you use depends on how you intend to use the chemical solution. The most common units are mass percent, volume percent, and mole fraction.
An archaic name is an older name for a chemical that predates the modern naming conventions. It's helpful to know archaic names of chemicals because older texts may refer to chemicals by these names. Some chemicals are sold under archaic names or may be found in storage labeled with the older names.
In statistics, a predetermined number of observations can be extracted from a larger population. This is called sampling. There are many sampling techniques adopted by researchers and statisticians, and the type of sampling depends upon the analysis to be performed. When it seems time-consuming to obtain data from every member of the population, then sampling techniques are employed.
Parents and kids alike love sports, and it's easy to get caught up in a game and become focused on winning. Yet there is much more to be gained from the sports experience than a winning record. When children and teens are involved in sports, they are able to learn and put into practice values that will stay with them for the rest of their lives.
Modern technology changed a lot from what we saw in the last decade or the past century. New machines and gadgets are invented to make jobs easier like never before. From the little tailor machine to the fastest car in the world, all got automated, reducing the manual actions required to the least.
The spiral of silence is a mass communication theory introduced by Elizabeth to describe the process of public opinion formation. He defines the spiral of silence as the process an individual experiences when he may find that the views he holds are losing ground. The more this appears to be so, the less he will be inclined to express his opinion.
The internet has grown in importance by many folds over the process of decade. Its importance in the education world can now never be undermined. Despite the chances of fraud and drawbacks, the use of the internet is like a blessing for students. Today, the internet is something that is present in almost everything we use. Today, most American citizens over the age of 18 are entitled to vote in federal and state elections. But voting was not always a right for all Americans, because the Constitution did not specifically say who could vote. This question was largely left to the states in the 1800s. While no longer explicitly excluded, voter suppression is a problem in many parts of the country.
Throughout history, Stanford medicine has been home to cutting-edge medical advances, including the first successful adult human heart transplant in the United States and the first combined heart-lung transplant in the world. Stanford School of Medicine is the West Coast's oldest medical school and worldwide leader in patient care, education, and innovation.
Sportsmanship comes in many forms and helps make competitive games fun and enjoyable. It fosters good habits and positive life skills both in and out of sports games, and is an important life skill for people of all ages. It is also key to becoming a mature, respectful, and successful adult.
Contemporary scholars who study scientific methodology are often frustrated by the implication that science is logically falsifiable. The problem is that scientists can always make excuses to avoid falsifying a claim. The discovery of Neptune is a famous case. Astronomers had noticed irregularities in the orbit of Uranus. One possibility was that these irregularities violated the theory currently used to explain planetary motion, and that this theory should be rejected.
With our current situation and the state of the global economy, there is a much lower chance of landing a new job anytime soon, and it's unclear when social distancing measures will end or what shape the economy will be in when you are able to return to work.
Like other cognitive biases, implicit bias is a result of the brain's tendency to try to simplify the world. Because the brain is constantly inundated with more information than it could conceivably process, mental shortcuts make it faster and easier for the brain to sort through all of this data.
It is important to note that even good stress can lead to spikes in blood sugar levels. Mental and physical stress, such as worrying about your job or getting sick, can create negative stress. But even positive or exciting events, like riding on a roller coaster or winning an award, can create stress on your mind and body. Psychology is both an applied and academic field that benefits both individuals and society as a whole. A large part of psychology is devoted to the diagnosis and treatment of mental health issues, but that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the impact of psychology.
For a lunar eclipse to occur, the Sun, Earth, and Moon must be roughly aligned in a line. Otherwise, the Earth cannot cast a shadow on the Moon's surface and an eclipse cannot take place. When the three bodies are aligned in a way that the Moon is partly covered by the Earth's umbra, a partial lunar eclipse is the result.
As of Friday, Musk and Twitter had given no public notice of the coming layoffs, according to a spokesperson for California's Employment Development Department. That's even though the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification statute requires employers with at least 100 workers to disclose layoffs involving 500 or more employees, regardless of whether a company is publicly traded or privately held. If you walk into your kitchen, almost everything has encountered plastic in one way or another. The plastic bags you stuff into a drawer, your favorite cup, and even the packaging keeping those blueberries fresh. Despite plastic's ubiquity, we often forget where it comes from. Indeed, when it comes to plastic, our efforts seem much more focused on what happens after rather than before we use it.
The blame for overconsumption should not and cannot be placed solely on individuals. Companies and corporations have a vested interest in making you buy more stuff because if they don't, they go bankrupt. This is why they slap green labels onto their products and advertise everywhere. Indeed, the whole idea of a personal carbon footprint is a propaganda campaign created by a fossil fuel giant. For as long as society has existed, we've understood the role of surrounding influences on our decision-making. With idioms like "it takes a village to raise a child" and "you are the product of your environment," we understand that to a great extent our upbringing, our parents and the society we grew up in influence our decision-making process.